When you're a high achiever, you pride yourself on being able to take on a lot, stay on top of it, and follow through. And that's why it's extra hard when you fall behind, because not only are you dealing with the stress of being overwhelmed and falling behind, you're also dealing with a challenge to your identity on top of that. In this video, I'm going to offer a mindset shift to help you get back on track and some practical ways for finding your footing again so you can get out of overwhelm and build your confidence back up and do your best work. So when you fall behind, it's not just a logistical challenge. It becomes a question of identity. If you think of yourself as someone who can handle anything, then not being able to handle something is a challenge to that identity that you hold. For a lot of high achievers, trying harder is the go-to. It's the only tool in your toolkit. It can work really well for a long time, but eventually you hit a point in your life and career where it doesn't work anymore. And this is really tricky because it's a logistical problem and an identity crisis. You're facing a challenge to who you believe yourself to be. And for a lot of us, that brings up shame and a sense of hopelessness. And that's made worse by all or nothing thinking that says that if you can't do it perfectly, you're a failure and it's hopeless. We're not going to try to fix that, at least not in this video. What I'd like to offer here are some ways to work around this challenge so that you can keep moving forward in the way that matters to you. Our main strategy for getting out of overwhelm is going to be to make tiny changes, so small that they're almost imperceptible. And the first tiny change that I propose is to consider self-compassion. Now, a lot of people who are high achievers and very driven dismiss the idea of compassion as self-indulgent, but I'd like to propose a more pragmatic approach to self-compassion. It's simply more effective than shame for getting you to do something. If you think back to teachers or other authority figures you've had in the past, maybe you had one who was kind of mean, scary, and berated you, or maybe you saw them berate someone else. And so that motivated you to do whatever the thing was to do and not get in trouble. And that fear can be useful, but only so far, because maybe you've also had an authority figure who used praise and encouragement to motivate you, and maybe you thrived under that. Or maybe it was so weird because you were used to being berated that it didn't motivate you as much. But the fact is that over time, that positive approach has no ceiling. There's a point at which, with an authority figure who operates on fear, and that includes the voices in our head that perpetuate that fear cycle and shame-based learning, there hits a point where that doesn't work anymore because you get so resentful and frustrated that you quit. Whereas encouragement, positive reinforcement, there's no ceiling there. You can just keep going, keep getting better, keep discovering new levels together with whoever's supporting you, even if that's yourself. And that is the way that I think is always more effective. Now, if you have a life history of being motivated by shame and fear, you're not going to just be able to leap to being motivated by positive reinforcement. But again, with these tiny changes, we're going to start by being open to the idea of self-compassion. We're going to be open to the idea that we don't need disapproval to motivate us. We're going to be open to the idea that maybe we're fundamentally okay, even if we're not completely on top of all of our work right now. For a certain kind of person, maybe this is the kind of thing that's going to motivate you. With self-compassion, you can actually work harder and do more and not even feel it. It won't feel bad. It will feel good. So you'll be able to be even more powerful and get even more accomplished. So again, just consider leaning into this self-compassionate approach and see where it can take us. So now I'm going to give you a way to think about this in a way that makes it almost a game, that we're sort of tricking ourselves into being more self-compassionate. Let's imagine that you're a character in literature, a book, TV, movie, whatever. Let's think about it in terms of the hero's journey. In every story, the action begins with an inciting incident in which the protagonist is going to face a setback or a challenge or maybe an opportunity, but it's something that shakes up their world. And then they keep facing challenges until the resolution of the story. For example, in The Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins is just minding his own business and then Gandalf knocks on his door and sends him on a quest. Or in Pride and Prejudice, an eligible bachelor comes to town. The story is only interesting because some obstacle or challenge was thrown in the path of the protagonist. And that's you right now. And the reader or viewer wants to keep turning the pages or keep watching the movie to see what happens next and see how you get out of it. A lot of times you look at the challenges of your life and it feels like stuff is just happening to you. But you can get more of a sense of control if you think of yourself as that protagonist and think, okay, with this current situation, what do I have control over? What action can I take next? That's kind of exciting in fantasy epics. Like if you're 11, the dream is to be an orphan. That was everybody's dream, is to be an orphan. And then you get a letter that's telling you you are magical and you're invited to some magical school. The day-to-day crap that we're facing is not on that level. It's boring. But you never know, because Steven Soderbergh and Julia Roberts made a movie of Erin Brockovich's life and it won a bunch of Oscars. There she was, a single mom, broke, unemployed, but she had pluck and determination, and that was fascinating to watch on screen. You have pluck and determination. What are you going to do with it next? If you imagine your own life from a slightly elevated and detached perspective, what's the plot synopsis? What's going on? How would you describe it? And does that give you any fresh insights in what to do next and how to handle it? At the very least, recognize that when you read a book or watch a movie or watch a TV show, you're going on the journey with somebody. You want interesting and weird things to happen to them. You want them to face challenges because that's what keeps you motivated to keep reading. Otherwise, there's no point. We don't really care about Harry's life with the Dursleys before Hagrid shows up. We don't really care about Bilbo Baggins' peaceful life in Bag End. We don't care about the Bennets going to parties where there is nothing happening. And we wouldn't know Erin Brockovich's name unless she had faced these significant challenges and prevailed. But even more importantly, you want to go through the process of watching the movie, watching the TV show, reading the book. You don't just look up the plot synopsis on Wikipedia. You want to experience it. So similarly, you don't want to just get to the end of your life and find out how it turns out. You want to live it. You want to turn the pages yourself. And even though you're dealing with stuff that you'd rather not be dealing with, this is that. You're living your life. You're moving through it. And the interesting thing is to see how you do that. And I understand if you want your life to be less interesting. I understand if maybe you want just a peaceful life. But moving through the challenges is how we get there. Now, on a practical level, how do we do this? Obviously, I don't know your specific situation, but the path is always going to be to move forward in tiny steps. People are often frustrated when I say that because it feels like the progress will be too slow if we move in small steps. But the thing to keep in mind is that those small movements compound. You build confidence, you build strength, you build skill, and you start to be able to see a little farther. If you stay focused on the tiny moves, the impacts will become bigger. We've all seen movies where the hero is tied up and has to get out of it somehow. If they're really lucky, they're tied up with their hands in front of their body. And what they do is they start moving. Maybe their restraints have a tiny bit of give. And so they start moving and take that tiny bit of give and turn it into a larger amount of give so that they can eventually completely break free. We're going to do the same thing with the work in front of us. We're going to take any tiny bit of movement that we have and we're going to use it to free up more capacity. Now, when you're overwhelmed, overloaded, behind, it might feel like you don't have any capacity at all. But we're going to make a game out of finding the tiniest way to free up capacity. For example, imagine if you have a very cluttered house and no time to deal with it. So you have no physical space, you have no temporal space. You have no mental space either because the constant clutter that's around you and the constant demands on your time, everything feels like an emergency. But what you can do is take the core of the apple you just ate and put that in the trash. When you take off the socks you're wearing, you can put them directly into the laundry hamper, even if there are dirty clothes all over the floor. These would be teeny tiny moves that might feel really small and insignificant in the scheme of things. They don't feel like they're going to get you anywhere. But over time, with a pattern of this kind of behavior, you see things start to shift. You take one tiny action, you make one little decision, and then another layer reveals itself. You see another thing that you can do, and another and another. These little things that you can do, or that you can say no to, make a difference over time. It doesn't seem like it would work, or it doesn't seem like it would help because the impact isn't big enough. But try it and see. Now, of course, you're going to continue to face setbacks. You're going to see these tiny increments of progress happening that are going to make you feel a little bit of hope, these tiny little tender shoots coming up, and then a big boot is going to stomp on them and kill them. And I'm here to say that that's unfortunately part of it. That is what we call ugly progress. You're trying to move forward and then you just find more problems that put you further behind and bury you more. But that's exactly what happens to the hero of any story. And in fact, as they move forward, the problems escalate. They get harder and harder, and the protagonist has to figure out the way around it. You will too. The progress that you make, it doesn't feel like progress because it was wiped out, or it just feels futile, like you're on the phone for 3 hours with customer service and you didn't even get anywhere. That's just part of it. It's still moving you forward, even if it doesn't seem like it. And here, the placebo effect is very valuable, where if you believe that it's moving you forward, it can at least help you prevent the worst of the hopelessness and give you the will to keep going. That's the thing. All of this is futile. All of it's pointless. It's like we're all in little boats just heading downstream. We don't have control over it. But even though the current is sending us along and we can't fight that, maybe we have paddles. Maybe we can steer a little bit and choose where we're going within that flow. We're not going to conquer chaos ever. It's not a weakness on our part that we can't fix that. that bad stuff keeps happening to us or that we keep facing setbacks. That is not the problem. And that's not our opportunity. The opportunity is in how we choose to respond to the things that are happening to us. We want to move with it instead of against it. We accept it, figure out what our choices are from this point. If you're buried under this pile of stuff, this is the next chapter of your story. And of course, you want to catch up and get back on track. But the process of doing that is in itself valuable. What you learn and how you grow. Your only choice is to play through, not just skip to the ending. So you have to find some kind of way to enjoy that. See what happens when you put yourself at the center of your own story, give yourself agency, and make tiny changes. I can't wait to see what happens next.